80 hours a week for somebody else, I know that I could do that for myself and see that return on investment.
Awesome. And why your own business, right? So like, my story is I was a little bit pulled into entrepreneurship. It wasn't really like my first thought. I just knew, man, I'm working really hard and I'm putting all this dedication into this business that's not really mine. But maybe if I just work harder and work my way up, I'll get paid more and I will move up. And then I kind of got pulled into entrepreneurship, and now I'm like, oh, I would never go back. Where once you kind of do your own thing, you'll never be able to work for anyone else again. So what, did you have entrepreneurship in your family, or were you just like, no, I've got to have my own thing, versus like, I'm just going to work harder and move up?
Yeah, I think I relate to your story very much, because being in the corporate world for over 10 years, you kind of get to that plateau where you're like, okay, I'm making pretty good money. I could make a little bit more money, but what is the end goal? What's the long term? And I know that I don't want to be working 30 years, 80 plus hours a week for the rest of my life. I want to have some control over my schedule, and I don't want someone else to tell me when I can take a vacation, when I can be at my kid's soccer game. And so for me, I think it was just that crave and that urge to create something for myself, and knowing that I could do it because I had already done it for someone else.
Yeah. And what was the process of leaving that corporate job? You had already started your business, or were you just like, you know what? No, I'm done with this and I'm going to go do my own thing?
Well, it was a lot of, sleepless nights and going back.
See, I knew we were soul sisters. I did the same thing.
It was a tough season. It took me, I would say, almost a year to actually go for it, because I had a really comfy job. I was a director at a consulting firm. I pretty much decided when I worked, and I had a team. And so it was a very cushy job, and a great salary and a lot of comfortability and safety. And so people kind of looked at me like, why would you leave? You technically have it made. And I just couldn't get rid of this desire, this burning desire inside of me to create something for myself and to solve problems that I felt like we weren't necessarily doing in the company in the way that I wanted to. And so I constantly found myself kind of caring more about the organization than necessarily the people that were there did. And that was just an internal conflict. And you can only go so far until you're like, okay, this isn't even really my fish to fry, so why don't I go create my own?
Right. And every business is different, but for you, I mean, there's so much kind of legality to it, right? Like, you don't just get to go out and say, all right, I'm going to do this business. You are trying to get in and work with doctors who hold other patients' lives in their hands, literally. Walk us through that. How did you really, in a sense, build up that credibility to where you got into those offices and you said, I've been there. I am the patient, essentially. I see all these mistakes being made. I know how to fix them.
Sure. So I think the previous role that I was in definitely prepared me to go out and kind of create something very quickly. As an entrepreneur, as you know, having your business, you have to be the attorney, you have to be the accountant, you have to be the salesperson, you have to be the janitor, you have to be the client-facing person. So you have to have, a thick skin, and you have to be able to juggle lots and lots of different things. But I would say putting myself out there, networking, doing a lot of public speaking, that really gave me the comfortability to go out and do sales and try to get clients. As far as credibility, I have multiple certifications, and that does help as far as demonstrating my expertise. But my professional experience and having worked with thousands of organizations, from hospitals to physician practices to government entities, they're just that diversity in all of the different things that I've done has really prepared me. That combination has prepared me to be able to go out and easily get clients. The average doctor gets about 2 hours of coding training in their residency. Wow. 2 hours. And they're not really told that the codes that they use dictate how much money they take home every single month. And it's actually such a more complicated and bigger deal than what they are originally told. And so just kind of getting on their level and speaking their language, really, it pays off a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that you mentioned getting speaking gigs, and you also started your own podcast. Walk us through that. You know, and what came to my mind when I was thinking about this is, so are you on TikTok? Do you have a TikTok?
I am not.
Okay. First, you need to go get a TikTok account just for the watching, even if you don't post a thing, because that's currently what I'm doing. I'm collecting my ideas, and then I'll take over the TikTok world. But, you know, everyone says it's like these 13-year-olds or these 15-year-olds, what have you. But there's this community of mompreneurs and young women who have started businesses. And so they get on and they do these TikTok videos about how they became a millionaire by like age 35, right? And they're like, follow me. And they're doing, this is how I do it. And there's all this stuff popping up on the screen. And I'm like, but nobody really explains the how. They're like, okay, I started my own business, I quit my corporate job, and I got some speaking gigs, and I'm 35 and I'm a millionaire. But I'm like, but how, right? Like, how did you get clients? How did you get speaking gigs? Because you can't just go on LinkedIn and be like, I'd love to come speak. Please pay me thousands of dollars and fly me out to wherever and let me speak to all these doctors. So kind of walk us through that. Like, how did you get these things?
Yes. So I got really, really comfortable putting myself out there and networking. Like I said, I'm affiliated with many different organizations, and being a successful business person is about building relationships. People want to do business with people that
I love that. Yep.
So I think your description of the way people approach the sales process is so wrong, because people don't buy what you do, and you can scream from the rooftops what you do. That doesn't resonate with people. They want to have that relationship. And then when you're in a position to where you've built that relationship, then when the need arises or there's someone that they know that happens to need your services, you're top of mind. And so I think positioning and volunteering, I've volunteered a lot of my time with mentoring professionals in my organization. I'm the president of the Orlando, Florida AAPC chapter, which is a group of 1,500 individuals in the area that are in the same industry. And that has allowed me to develop relationships with doctors in the community. Yeah. And it's been incredible. So I think, to answer your question about the how, it's a lot of social media, a lot of putting myself out there, a lot of networking, volunteering to speak, volunteering to be on podcasts. Being on a podcast like this is just an amazing opportunity because you have such a big audience. And so doing things like that can really help get your name out there and create that brand awareness.
Yeah, yeah. So translation, it takes time, right?
It takes time and hustle, a lot of hustle.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Okay, so tell us about your podcast. Why did you start one? I think I know the answer, but kind of walk us through that, like the benefits. I have to bring up this statistic because this is amazing. 4,000 downloads. You've passed 4,000 downloads on this podcast. You've been doing it for a month. That's amazing.
Yes.
This is high five to you. So walk us through that. Why are you like, I need to do a podcast? And what have been some of the benefits of it?
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. But actually my business coach and mentor, her name is Terry Fletcher. She has a podcast, and it's in a similar format. And so I have been a fan of her podcast for a couple of years. And I would say for the last year and a half, I've just had this urge and this pull to create a podcast because, number one, to cast a wider net. Number two, to establish that trust with my audience, and really as a marketing tool and a way to build that trust with people that may want to work with me. So they kind of get a taste of what it would be like if they were to bring me in as a consultant in their practice. And it's been incredible. I mean, the people and the opportunities that have come from this podcast, I cannot speak enough about how great it has been. And as a podcaster, it's such an awesome platform to share your message and really build other people up and give them opportunities.
And so the name of your podcast is Alpha Coding Podcast.
Yes, Alpha Coding Podcast.
And, this all ties together in the sense of when someone is starting or trying to build up that, another term, social media clout that all the cool kids use. It all goes together, right? Like you can get a speaking gig because you're an expert in a space on a podcast and you've been featured on enough podcasts because you're building up, just as you said, you're building up that trust with your audience of, look, I'm in all these different places, but I'm speaking about this one thing. And I think something that kind of binds a lot of entrepreneurs is we think, who's going to want to listen to this one topic? Coding, right? Like who wants to listen to that all the time? But there is an audience out there for that. And then through that audience, you reach the other people you need to get into contact with, like doctors and things like that. And we're the same. Like we talk a lot about marketing, right? It's what we do. So I'm going to go off on social and branding and everything else. So have you seen any challenges or maybe unexpected benefits of being niche, right? Like the saying is, the riches is in the niches. Do you feel like you've experienced that or maybe some challenges?
I think niche podcasts tend to do very, very well, depending on how they're executed. I know with our podcast, it was very important for me to keep it really short and digestible because it is such technical information. So I try to keep our episodes around 20 minutes. And that consistency of showing up every single Monday, dropping new episodes and providing that valuable content, I think has propelled us to be so successful. In the podcasting world, 4,000 downloads is a lot of downloads.
Yes, it is.
It's not like the YouTube world. It's totally different. Mm-hmm. And so I think challenge-wise, we definitely, we've seen challenges with making sure that we are targeting our audience and our message in the right way, because with a podcast, you can do so many different things, right? You can have a million guests on and you can take your message so many different ways, but staying consistent to your message and why you created the podcast is critical. And so that's been a challenge for us. And I know that that's a challenge for a lot of people that get into podcasting.
Yeah. So you also have an ebook coming out on the social determinants of health, and that's coming out next month?
It's coming out next month,
yes. Okay.
It's basically an out-of-the-box solution on how to operationalize the social determinants of health. So this is one of the biggest words in healthcare right now. Everybody's talking about it because we're seeing a lot of homelessness rates rising. We're seeing so many factors that are basically discouraging people from healthy living and healthy outcomes. And so it's a problem that affects every single person in the world. And I'm hoping that this book is going to help organizations really operationalize this issue so that we can capture data to get resources allocated. Okay.
And you're also a mother of 2 young children. And you have one on the way.
Yes.
And I love what you said. You said that they're your driving force and not an excuse to put your dreams on hold. Walk us through that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that so many people, they use their children as an excuse for not going after their dreams. They use their kids as an excuse to stay in a comfortable job or go to work every day for a job that they absolutely hate. And they live their life on a Monday through Friday schedule, and they dread their life on Sunday to think about all the things that are coming ahead. And so, for me, it's just really important to use my kids as a source of motivation and not as an excuse for not going after my dreams. And going from an employee to an entrepreneur, and then going from not having any kids to being a working mom, I just see the struggle and how much work it takes to balance everything. And so I want to show people through an example and through action that you can be a mom, and you can be a working mom or a working entrepreneur mom and still go after your dreams and still be a great mom and figure out how to juggle everything.
Yeah.
And the only way for me to do that is to show them.
Yeah.
Not tell them.
Yeah. We, my husband and I get asked often how many children we have. And so my answer used to be 2, because I would say that we had the business and a puppy. And then I realized, I said, you know what? I said, that's really doing a disservice to women who really do have children that are still doing this. Because even though, because in truth, I mean, having a business it really is like having another child, right? Like,
yes,
it takes a lot of your money, and it keeps you up at night, and you've got to tend to it when it's sick, if you will, right? Like, there's all these things going on that you have to do, and you have to help it grow. But there are just amazing women, including yourself, that have the business and the puppy and children and having to go to doctor's appointments and soccer games and all of these things. So I admire that so much. I am not there yet. I will be one day.
You're going to do it.
But I'm just so inspired by that and amazed. And the question that comes up in my mind, as so many others, men and women who are listening right now, how do you do it all? Right? Like, we've gone through, you, Toni, you've got the business and you're speaking and you have your podcast and a family. How do you do it all?
Well, some days I don't do it all very well.
Amen.
But
okay.
I think, and I will admit that, because none of us are perfect, and we all have bad days. But I will tell you, the secret behind it all is taking what's in your brain and writing it down. Get it on paper. Make a list. I make lists all day long, and I check off the things on those lists. And it's such a high, because you feel productive and you can see the progress. And so I think so many people just walk around with all of this stuff in their head, and it stresses them out. And so with a business and with kids and with all of the extra stuff, you have to take what's in your head and put it on paper.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that you're old. Because I'm like, hang on a second, I got to write this down or I will forget it.
Yes.
No, I love it. And that's just a key point, right? Is that really, in a sense, it's a trick question, because we can't do it all, right? We have to surround ourselves with others who can assist in their way, because we're not good at everything, and we have to delegate and lean on others to guide us through those parts that we're not so good at. Well, Toni, thank you so much for joining me. So I want to know if somebody wants to listen to your podcast, or maybe if you're looking for guests, maybe they need your coding services, how can we connect with you?
Sure. So our podcast is on all downloadable platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. It's called Alpha Coding Podcast. And then if you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and then our website, alphacodingexperts.com. We'd love to hear from many of you.
Awesome. Perfect.
And thank you for having us, Whitney. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you could join us. And I'm going to leave us with this. Your number one piece of advice for let's go with the entrepreneur who's currently feeling overwhelmed. Overwhelmed on a rainy Tuesday in Georgia.
I'm right there with you. It never ends. So my piece of advice for that is keep pushing forward no matter what. Show up for yourself because it's worth it. You are worth it. And you can do this every single day. There's new challenges as an entrepreneur, and it doesn't get easier with time. You just get smarter. You get more resilient. So just keep pushing forward.
Awesome. I love that. Toni Elhoms, Alpha Coding Expert CEO. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Jungle.
Thank you, Whitney.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Until next time, we'll see you then.